Hello, I'm Sarah Rodwald. I'm a realtor in the Boston and Cambridge area. I'm today going to talk about how to buy. So last time I talked about how to sell. I'm going to divide this up into 4 different videos. So, this is part one, and I'll go through the entire process of how to buy, so don't worry, and if you have questions about specific things, just put them in the comments and I can address it later, or message me. So anyway, the first thing that you want to do when you're thinking about buying is you want to get a pre-approval. So what that means is you're going to go to a lender or a broker and you're going to say, hey, Mr. Lender, Mrs. Lender, I essentially make this much money, and I have this much debt, and I have student loans, or I don't have student loans, or I'm super rich, or this is how much money I make. I might have this in savings and things like that. They're going to go through and really ask you all the details of like your assets and credit. If you have a credit card debt, anything like that. If you pay alimony or you pay child support or anything. So they're going to go through and look at all of, where your money's coming from, and what debts you have as well. And typically with student loans, if you're on a regular payment plan, they'll just use the debt that you pay every month. So if you say have like a lot of student debt, and right now a lot of people are, they're not paying because the interest rates are pushed back, then they're going to look at 1% of your student loan and count that per month. So if it makes sense to have it go back on paying every month versus having them calculate 1% of your student loans, then it might make sense to basically, when you're getting pre-approved and getting a mortgage, to be making monthly payments versus be on have your payments stalled. For some reason I can't remember that word. Anyway, there's a bunch of different types of loans you can get, different types of mortgages you can get, and they can be like VHA or FHA, which is like First Time Home Buyers Association. The VA, if you're a veteran, there's a bunch of benefits with that. Mass Housing, which certain lenders have programs through Mass Housing that they can use if you're like a first-time home buyer. There are restrictions on how much you can make to qualify for those, but they're actually pretty reasonable. If you're for a single person in Massachusetts trying to buy a property. And there's a ton of benefits with those. The FHA, while you might be putting 3% or 3.5% down, a lot of times they have a lot of fees and they have a lot of restrictions. So if you're looking at a property that maybe has peeling paint, or that needs a lot of work, things like that, it probably isn't going to work, because they're going to come back to the seller and tell them they have to fix all these things before you can close, before you can get a mortgage. And if it's a situation where the property needs a lot of work, then probably the seller isn't capable or not willing to fix all those things before they sell. So it has its ups and downs, its pluses and minuses. The VA loan, those can be difficult just because it's 0% down. So a lot of times there's some strategies that I'll kind of go over later that'll help you really stand out and make your offer stronger. So hang on for that. And let's see, so once you go through all the stuff with the lender, you go through your credit, everything, they're going to pull your credit. It's not going to ruin your credit. It'll affect it a few points, but especially if you're going to different lenders and shopping around, all they do is mortgages. So they're going to understand that you're shopping around, so they're not going to hold that against you. If you go to a big bank, 100% they'll hold that against you. So I used to work at Citibank, and probably shouldn't have said that name. I used to work at a bank, and they would, if you had 2 inquiries or more in like 6 months, then your rate would go way down. So it made no sense because they clearly wanted perfect buyers that weren't shopping around and things like that. So it was no bueno. Anyway, so don't worry about that for yourself. I have plenty of lenders that I work with that are great. There's a ton of really good lenders out there. You know, can give suggestions, all that good stuff. A couple things to think about. Say, you know, maybe someone's going to give you a gift, you know, of some money that you can use towards a down payment. So it'd have to be from parents or a partner. So whether it's like a spouse or, you know, like your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. And then the closing costs, usually you want to calculate about 3% of the total purchase price. So say you're buying a magical house in the Midwest for $100,000, then you know you would be paying about $3,000 in closing costs. So if you can calculate for that up front, it's amazing. Also, just make sure that, you know, and sometimes you can roll in the closing costs too into the loan, which may or may not necessarily make sense for you, because if you can pay it up front, it's going to save you in interest long run, but sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. So there's no judgment on this end. So anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts on getting pre-approved. I would say you want to do that sooner than later because they last about 90